Right, hi guys, welcome back to the Darts with Jack podcast. My name is Jack, and today on the podcast we have a special guest, which is Travis Cullen. So Travis is just come through JDC Q-School, and he's going to be on the Advanced Tour this year. So, hi Travis, thank you for coming on the podcast, and how are you?
All right, thank you. Nice for inviting me. Thanks.
So, my first question is, how did you get into darts?
Obviously, my dad's Joe, and with it being a family thing, it's easy to pick up a dart around the house, have a few throws, etc., playing with my father himself. Um, I only started competitive of recent. I've never really been into the competitive side of darts, but all throughout the family, to be fair.
Yeah, obviously, do you kind of feel pressure? Did you feel pressure to play darts because of your dad's success?
I think it's not as much me putting pressure on myself. I think opponents put pressure on themselves playing me, thinking of the name that obviously lies in front of them, Cullen on the end of the name. It's pro darts player's last name at the end of the day. So I think they struggle with the pressure to play against me.
Yeah, when I was playing in a league recently, and one of the people I was playing, a guy called Ollie, he was actually at JDC Q-School as well, and he said that when one of his friends who plays you actually, he said the pressure was just immense because he's got, he could have the title of beating Joe Cullen's son, and I think actually you beat him in the end, which was obviously funny for him. So in Q-School event three, you lost in the final to Joe Westby, who obviously then went on to win the Super 16 event. Were you annoyed that you lost the deciding leg to win the actual day, or were you just happy to get your tour card?
I didn't really think about it. I was more thinking about the talk card after the game, but at the end of the game, there wasn't really a reason to be annoyed. I think Joe was the better player all game. If you looked at the averages as well, I think he averaged 10 points higher than me. At the end of the day, he deserved it, and there's no reason to complain.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like the standard at JDC Q-School was so much improved compared to the last year. I think you averaged about 60 across the whole event, and some of the players. I think Joe averaged about 72, and I think he had the highest average out the whole field. So, did you feel pressure coming in, knowing that like there were people with the higher averages than you, or were you just there to have a good time, or were you focused on getting that tour card?
To start with, I was focusing on the talk card. I didn't really look into like the junior ranks to see who was good and whatnot. I went to Blackburn Academy to play a tournament a bit before. Then Joe was there, obviously. Joe won the whole thing. I knew that he'd be a danger player once I obviously turned up to JDC. But barring that, not much really.
Yeah. So I'm actually hopefully going to be attending JDCQ school in the next year. And what's your best advice to me or any player who wants to reach that level?
I think that like the best advice to give is just not put pressure on yourself to start with. I think if you're turning up to JDC, walking in like you're the big player and you're the special player, you will eventually get humbled by yourself. And confidence is obviously key to playing darts, but if you're over cocky and then you get beats, people can take it down the wrong route and become a sore loser then.
Yeah. So I've I live very close to St Helens, obviously. So there's obviously this big popularity over obviously the dart shop and the academy itself, and obviously Littler coming in and just dominating the world of darts at the moment. Is that somewhere you'd like to be, or are you just focused on the JDC tour and then advancing as a player yourself?
I set out a plan, really, if I'm honest. When I started playing competitively, I wanted to obviously go to the JDC, hopefully get my talk card, which luckily I have done. I'm not going to rush into it. I'm not going to try take on Q-School too quickly because I know my levels and I know how well I can play. But I think I'll probably go on to the challenge tour before I go anywhere near Q-School, if I'm honest.
Yeah, obviously the challenge tour and the development tour is probably the best way that most of the pros get in. So, what are your own aspirations for the next year?
This year, I just want to try retain my tour card in JDC. If you have the advanced tour card, you've got to finish in the top 20 to retain it. Obviously, I missed the first few events due to sickness, and I think it's a bit of a setback. But if I practice the way I've been playing, if I play the way I've been practicing, I don't see there's no reason why I can't retain this tour card.
Yeah, and obviously when I was looking at the stats from the JDC Advanced Tour 1 and like to 5 compared to Q-School, the average has gone up across the whole tournament. So do you feel that by missing the first few tournaments by sickness, you're kind of missing a chance to get a feel of the level of the game, or are you just eager to get started now?
I think I'm just eager to get to the level because since Q-School, I think my level and my averages have boosted. I think I know like how well I can play, and my averages have gone up by 20 points. But that obviously that's at home. That's not playing in a competitive tournament. See how it goes on the day, don't you?
Yeah, so at home, are you practicing obviously with your dad? Obviously, he's away at tournaments a lot of the time, but are you practicing with him or are you practicing with, do you have set practice partners, or is it like just with your dad or like on your own?
My dad's obviously away a lot with the Pro Tours are now midweek. So I don't really play with my dad a lot. I occasionally have the odd game of 1-2-1 with him, which obviously every darts fan knows. I practice alone majority, but I have a practice partner, my friend Charlie, who's in and about with the darts game, starting as a newcomer, just trying to get into it.
Yeah, obviously, and actually, it's a good point about the Pro Tours being in the midweek. Obviously, I'm still at school and stuff, and obviously, as an avid darts fan, being them in midweek, it's like having to get your phone out in the middle of the lessons to check how players are doing and stuff. And is that impacted? I think I know, Bob, when I've been speaking to other players, just like in random like opportunities and stuff. Obviously, a lot of them still have like part-time jobs and stuff. So in the future, would you want to go like full-time darts? Is that your aim, or would you rather have darts like a side thing?
No, preferably aim is to become a full-time darts player, try to get to the highest level that I possibly can. But I think people elsewhere need to remember that how hard darts is nowadays. Like back in the past, there was obviously certain people who would take the reign over everyone else. Taylor is a perfect example of that. But the level is too good nowadays to just write it off and
Yeah.
think that you're just going to be straight away.
Yeah, I think kind of the key example was at the Worlds this year when Cameron Menzies tweeted that he was doing a half day of his plumbing job because then he had to go play in the Worlds this afternoon. And the reaction to that on Twitter was quite big because I don't think many people realise, if you're not in kind of the top 32 or you're getting far in the Pro Tours or the development tours, the money in darts is very much for the winners, the quarterfinalists. So I think it's obviously a tough job to have, but I don't think people take that into account. So what would you do if you couldn't manage to play darts full time?
Well, I think the main like aspiration for myself now is to make sure I get my obviously my college qualifications, which I need, and primarily focus on getting a working job rather than focusing on darts. Because with the level, like I said, nowadays it's hard to get into darts, and you need to always have a backup plan.
Yeah, absolutely. I obviously I've been revising. I've got GCSEs coming up this summer, and the amount of times I'm playing darts and I'm playing online, and I have my parents come in to me going, look, Jack, you've got to do some revision. You're not going to make it full time with darts, and I'm like, I'll make it there one day. And so one of the most interesting questions actually that I've been thinking of is if, let's say, in the PDC, obviously you've got the World Cup. If there was another big pairs tournament and you could choose your pair, would you choose your dad to be your partner, or would you choose someone else?
Oh, are we talking about you or are we talking about having a good time?
Oh, I mean, let's say it's a big money tournament. You've got the opportunity to make it full time.
Um, yeah, I'd probably pick my dad out of family pride, obviously, if we win it.
Yeah, I
See,
mean,
like,
it would go down in history. So, is there, and quite an interesting question is there any certain doubles or anything that you would fancy yourself over your dad at?
um, not really. Tops and tens. I don't really like tops and tens personally,
Yeah.
but I probably won't back myself to hit him over him, but I don't think it's fast.
No, one day. When I was watching, I think it was the game against Gilding, and he went that 1-4-1 route by going treble 19, treble 16, and double 18. I was like, I hadn't seen it before, and I was like, when I realised, like, obviously he's very good on the 18s and the fours especially. So it was like seeing him try new checkouts and stuff, and I think it's something that we're seeing more. We're seeing the big players break away from kind of norms, like Van Gerwen on 136 went treble 19, treble 19, double 11, which completely was obscene. It hadn't been seen before. But obviously, one of the big aspects of your game and yourself is that you're obviously sponsored. And how did that come about, and what do they help you to do?
Well, to begin with, they reached out a few years back and offered me a 3-year contract, which my dad said no to. This was towards the start of me playing my competitive side of darts, and he just thought it wouldn't be the right option then. But towards the back end of last year, they reached out again, asking for obviously a potential sponsorship, which I ended up agreeing to deal with them. I think the backing with a sponsor gives you that extra like eagerness to practice and the extra eagerness to want to win because you've got someone who's there supporting you.
Yeah, absolutely. And what is one of your ambitions? Obviously, you see the amount of players, and you very rarely see kind of amateur dart players. They're always buying the darts which have the players' names associated with them. You know, you're buying the Ask Gen 2s, or like, obviously your dad's released multiple versions of darts. Would you like to release like your own set of darts in the future?
Well, I think that could be happening in the future, obviously. I'm not 16 as of yet, but once I reach 16, I think me and Q-School were talking about putting my darts on sale. There's a few other players who were around the amateur level. Don't know if you've heard of him, Jamie Ruxby.
Yeah.
He's obviously sponsored by Q-School, and he released his darts a few months back, and I think I'm looking to do the same thing.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I'll make sure to pick myself up a set. Obviously, kind of one of the main ways that I think you see more the amateur people getting into darts is very much via, watching it on Sky Sports or ITV4 with tournaments like the Masters and stuff. Obviously, as we saw at JDC Q-School, Dart Connect obviously streamed one or two of your games. And do you feel more pressure being on a streamed board, as they would call it, compared to just playing you, your opponent, and the marker?
Not really, no. I don't think that the stream board is a massive big deal, especially at the JDC. It's still at a working men's club at the end of the day. The setup is better than any other. It's equivalent to the PDC tour. But I don't really think the streaming board makes a difference. Whereas if you're on a big stage, that's when the nerves come in.
So for those of you wondering, if the sound sounds different in the next bit, it's because our Zoom just cut off a bit. So we lost connection, but we got back on after 5 minutes or so. So the audio just sounds a bit different. So I'm sorry about that. But yeah, now I am going to give Travis some quickfire questions.
Travis, we're going to do your quickfire questions. Your time starts now. Would you rather win the World Championship or the World Cup?
World Championships.
What's your favourite double to hit?
Double tops.
What is your highest average to date?
100.
Who's your best friend within darts?
Best friend within darts, probably either my mate who I practice with or Mark Webster. I speak to him a bit.
What gram of darts are you currently using?
21.
What is the highlight of your career so far?
Getting my tour card or my county place.
What is your number one aim for the year ahead?
Win a JDC event.
What would be your walk-on song?
Not sure. Pass.
Do you have any sort of pre-match meal?
Not.
And do you have any, when you're doing your practice routines before the game, you have that 9 darts, what do you do with them?
I throw the first 3 scoring, the next 3 at doubles, and probably the last 3 at bull in case of a bull up.
Yeah. Awesome. Right, that's your 1 minute over. So thank you, Travis, for coming on the podcast. It's been a great pleasure to talk to you, and I hope to talk to you more in the future. Thank you for coming on the podcast.
Cheers, Jack. Thanks.
Right, guys, so obviously for those of you who are still listening at this point, that was Travis Cullen, a great JDC player, and it's actually on the day that this podcast goes out, it is his birthday, so let's get some love on the podcast for that as well. Now it's on to the bit that we do every week, the weekly roundup. So what have we got to talk about today? Well, we've got to talk about the Premier League. In Birmingham, we've got to talk about the Pro Tours, Monday, Tuesday, European Tour qualifiers, look ahead to the European Tour for this weekend. And yeah, so let's get into it. We'll start, I think, with the Euro Tour qualifiers. So on Wednesday, after the Pro Tours on Monday and Tuesday, it was the European Tour, I can't get my words out, European Tour 5 and European Tour 6 tour card holder qualifiers. They were held in Leicester after the Pro Tours themselves, and qualifying for European Tour 5 is Danny Lorby, Jeffrey Deswan, Karol Sedlacek, Dom Taylor, I can't pronounce that surname, Vessel Nijman, I don't know if I've got that right, Martin Lukeman, Aaron Monk, Graham Hall, Madas Razuma, and Richie Edhouse. I'm sorry to Vessel if I've pronounced that horribly wrong, which I'm pretty sure I have. And in European Tour 6, we have Matthew Dennant, Mike De Decker, who's had a great start to the season. I couldn't be more full of praise for Mike De Decker. Madas Razuma on the Vessel Nijman. I really don't know if I've pronounced that right. Richie Edhouse, Mike Kuvenhoven, Neil Zonneveld, Thibaut Tricol, Andy Bytons, and Horpai Puha. Once again, I don't know. I know I've butchered some of those surnames, so I'm really, really sorry. But yes, so it's quite. I mean, Cameron Menzies obviously missed out in a place at Kiel, which is one of the European Tours, and Ricky Evans lost to Horpai Puha, which is disappointing for Ricky. You know, we got so far in the UK Open, I think it was his first major semi-final, so that is a bit disappointing for him. But now we'll talk about the Pro Tours this weekend, obviously, which were in Leicester. And for those of you who didn't know, the winner of Players' Championship 7 was Chris Dobey, and the winner of Players' Championship 8 was Danny Noppert. So let's talk about not Danny Noppert, sorry. We need to talk about Chris Dobey first. So he beat Josh Rock in the final. Chris Dobey, an 8-4 win. There's so many 9-dart finishes in European Tour, in Players' Championship 7, including Chris Dobey himself landing a 9-darter, hitting a 170 checkout in the second round decider, and that was his 4th PDC title for Dobey, obviously. Dobey beat Vincent van der Voort, Mike De Decker, where he hit the 170, Mickey Mansell, Kim Huybrecht, in a 1.6.71 average. And then Daryl Gurney in the quarterfinals, who also hit a 9-darter earlier. And then a massive 109.6 average made him beat Ross Smith 7-3 in the last 4, to which he beat Rock comfortably in the final with a 108 checkout. So that's 15 grand, obviously, to Chris Dobey. And then in the in Players' Championship 8, I'm really sorry, I cannot get my words out today. In Players' Championship 8, it was Danny Noppert who eventually got the win in Leicester. His first title in a bit, actually, for Noppert. He's usually one of the big floor winners. So he beat Luke Humphreys 8-6 in the final in a bit of a shock. One of the stats I saw on Twitter was Danny Noppert, and I think it was actually on the PDC commentary. Danny Noppert has never lost a Players' Championship final, which is ridiculous. So that's 5 out of 5 for him. It wasn't an amazing final. I think they both struggled. And Noppert hit a 126 checkout to go 2-1, and then Noppert was 4-3 ahead, followed by a Humphreys 128 to go to 4-all. And then he won the game on double 10 after 64 checkout. His only major TV title is the UK Open for Danny Noppert, but he's great on the floor. And yeah, I think he'll be very happy. And then obviously there's 8 different winners from 8 Pro Tour events this year. So Danny Noppert beat Robert Owen, Jim Williams, Stephen Burton, Gerwin Price, Kevin Dutz, Radek Sagansky, I'm awful at surnames. And then obviously beating Humphreys, Paul Croner, then 106, 107, 106 respectively against Jeffrey Deswan and Brendan Dolan. Chris Dobey, Gary Anderson and Jean Van Veen in the last 4, in the last leg decider over Van Veen. And the next load of Players' Championships is in just under a month, which is in Hildesheim on May 6th to May 7th in Hildesheim, Germany. Once again, I cannot stress enough about getting PDC TV. I use it so much. I think it's incredible. However, with the Pro Tour being on the weekdays, I understand why people haven't bought it. So to the European Tour this week, it's the International Darts Open, as they call it. And it is in the WT Energy System Arena. It's the European Tour 4, and it's Risa, not Visa, where it was a couple of weeks ago. This is Risa or Riesa, spelled R-I-E-S-A. And the draw, it's quite an interesting draw. So for the second round onwards, the big ties, Chisnell versus Veenstra after Veenstra beat Gilding. Cullen, obviously, come on Joe. I'm sure it'll be a great weekend for him. Travis's birthday. Maybe he can pick up a European Tour title to go along with it. He'll play Jan Juekers or Martin Schindler. Other great ties, Heta versus Rids. Rids didn't play well when this podcast was produced, but I'm sure he can have a better performance tomorrow. Searle Gurney, I think maybe one of the ties of the round, if not the tie of the round. Other cracking ties, Van Dijdenbode versus Clemens or Wright. Other good ones, just let me have a flick through. Oh yeah, Jean Van Veen and Raymond van Barneveld playing again. They'll face Rob Cross. Josh Rock, Menzies or Simon Whitlock. I think that could be a great game. Ross Smith versus William O'Connor after he beat Mervyn King. There seemed to be a problem with the crowd in Mervyn King's game. But yeah, so William O'Connor moves through. And yeah, so in the session from today, which I'll just talk about because it's literally just finished 10 minutes ago, the afternoon session, it was Ed House who won, Dolan, Van der Berg, Veenstra, Gurney, Rids, O'Connor, and Michael Unterbuchner, two-time Lakeside semi-finalist, I believe, beat Luke Woodhouse. The evening session tonight, we have De Souza versus Decker, not De Decker, Cordecker. Chris Dobie versus Dylan Slevin, Dweckers versus Schindler, Mike De Decker versus James Wade. I think that'll be a great game. Cameron Menzies versus Simon Whitlock, Van Veen versus Van Barneveld, Clemens versus Wright, and Owen Bates versus Aspinall, which will be an absolute cracker to end the evening session. Some ties, I think, which are interesting of tomorrow, and I've already touched on them. Michael Smith plays last in the Saturday afternoon session. Noppert obviously picked up a title. He plays in the afternoon. Cullen, third game on in the evening tomorrow. And it ends with Cross, Van Veen, Van Barneveld, which will be an absolutely cracking game. It ends on Sunday, April 14th. It's currently April 12th. And that will be played at 19 o'clock local time, or 1800 BST. I think I actually just blocked my microphone there, so I'll have to check that. But yeah, it's been a great podcast. Obviously, the standout of this podcast is the interview. If you're going to watch any part of this podcast, please watch the interview, because Travis was an absolute great guest to have on the podcast. He's a lovely guy. He's already offered to play me in some games, which we'll be playing hopefully over the next couple of weeks. And yeah, he's such a nice guy when I've been talking to him, and it's a really high quality interview. So I hope to do more stuff with Travis over the next couple of months, years, weeks, however long. But yeah, this has been the Darts with Jack podcast. It is the interview with Travis Cullen and your weekly roundup. And I hope to see you all in the next episode. Let's get some love on this episode, guys. I'll see you all later. Goodbye.